The 88th Academy Awards, a little more than a week away, and we're counting down all the best pictures. Today, movie reviewer Matt Perrone gives us the skinny on The Big Short.
Welcome to day one of the Oscars Overview 2016. For the next 8 days leading up to the Oscars airing here on ABC Columbia next weekend, I will review one of the Best Picture nominees. Normally I have a formula as to how I do this, and since we have an even split this year, I'm going to go ahead and stick to last year's formula, which means 4 of the movies are based on actual events and 4 are works of fiction. So I will alternate between the two types every day leading up to next Friday. So, without any further ado, let's get started on The Big Short, which tells the story of the 2008 economic and housing market collapse. Our film begins with Michael Burry, played by Christian Bale. He is an ex-physician turned hedge fund manager with a remarkable ability for predicting numbers in stock market turnings. He notices that something is off with the housing market, and after doing some research, realizes that the entire market is on a bubble backed by subprime loans preparing to default. He approaches the major banks and arranges to create credit default swap markets where he bets against the bonds. Since the housing market has always been stable, the banks are quick to accept his, quote, bets. Meanwhile, catching wind of Burry's actions, 2 other separate groups begin to do research on the market and realize that his predictions are correct. These 2 entities also begin to buy up bank swaps, knowing that if the market fails, they will make billions. With every person they speak to, they become more convinced of how doomed the housing market is to a level they could never imagine. As the movie progresses, we see the housing loans begin to default. Even though the mortgages are losing tons of money, the housing market continues to become stronger. The 3 respective groups are baffled at how corrupt the entire system is. They continue to buy more swaps, but do so somberly, knowing that their eventual huge gain is going to be the result of an entire economic collapse that will affect millions, from which some will never recover. Eventually it happens. In 2008, the entire economy fails. 8 million people lost their jobs and 6 million lost their homes. The 3 groups made billions but lose all faith in the economy, especially when the government begins bailing out the banks for their negligence. In a postscript, we are warned that it seems like this process may be beginning to start all over again. So the nice thing about reviewing a movie that's based on a well-known true story is you really don't have to worry about spoiling the ending. Everyone knows what happened in the late 2000s, but what makes this movie fascinating is being able to see how these groups of people were able to predict it happening. The movie is a little confusing, but in a fun twist of movie making, they bring in well-known celebs like Margot Robbie, Anthony Bourdain, and Selena Gomez to explain what's going on in layman's terms. The acting is superb, with 1 Best Supporting Actor nod, but the entire ensemble cast is just fantastic, and you get to see some of these actors in roles that you're not used to seeing them in, which is usually pretty fun. I'm not sure if this movie is going to get the statue. Some critics are predicting that it will, but regardless, it's definitely an interesting look at this particular economic pitfall. Well, this has been your Oscars Overview. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for our first fictional movie review. Back to you.
Thank you, Matt. And as we get closer to the 88th Academy Awards, movie reviewer Matt Perrone will continue to review all of the biggest blockbusters that garnered Oscar nominations. You can catch his take on each of those films every weekday as we count down to the lights, the camera, all the action of the red carpet. The 88th Academy Awards only airs right here on ABC. That's Sunday, February 28th.